Good morning. My name is Laura Walton. I'm the president of Ontario School Board Council of Unions, and I've been leading our negotiation team in central bargaining on behalf of 55,000 education workers represented by the Canadian Union of Public Employees, or CUPE. I'm here today with Darcy McCathron, who is the school board's coordinator for CUPE, and I'm also joined by Fred Hahn, president of CUPE Ontario, representing all of our members in every sector throughout the province. As you know, CUPE members began Work to Rule job action 2 days ago, on Monday, September 30th. Our decision to Work to Rule was taken after we had met with representatives from the Ministry and the Council of Trustees Association for more than 20 days. Despite CUPE's best efforts, we were not able to reach an agreement that secured services for Ontario's students or delivered a fair deal for the dedicated education workers we represent. We decided to initiate Work to Rule in the hope that it would create enough pressure to resolve the impasse we had reached with the province and school board trustees. It was a step towards meaningful progress that would lead to a freely negotiated settlement. We were clear the intent was to apply pressure to employers and the government while maintaining student safety. This hasn't happened. Instead, we are seeing behavior from our employers that has given us great concern. Without any justification whatsoever from school boards, we have employers closing programs and laying off workers. Some boards are paying parents to do the work of CUPE members. Some are asking students as young as 10 and 11 to supervise students. Across the province, boards are cutting more services and putting students at greater risk. This is not safe, and this is not sustainable. We have no choice but to invoke the next step in the legal process we follow for school board bargaining. This morning, CUPE and OSPEU gave the legal 5-day notice that our school board members will commence full strike action on Monday, October 7th. Even as we take this step, we are prepared to get a deal that will avoid strike action. We are inviting the Council of Trustees Association and the Ministry back to the table for some hard collaborative work. We have cleared our schedules and are available as soon as possible. If there is a fair deal to be had, parents, students, and the public can be assured that CUPE will find it. I commit to the families of Ontario that our team will be doing everything possible to find a deal that is fair for everyone. If there is no fair deal to be reached, make no mistake, CUPE members are ready for full strike action on October 7th. I now invite Darcy to share.
Thank you, Laura. I'm Darcy McCathron, the Ontario School Board Coordinator for CUPE. We understand that this situation will be stressful for students, parents, and communities in the short term. But this government's cuts have hurt students and our schools across the province, and our focus has always been to reverse this damage and to secure services. CUPE education workers are determined to respond to the current situation in a way that will ultimately benefit students, families, and our communities. We do not take escalating our Work to Rule to full strike lightly. In fact, we believe that a fair deal is within the province's grasp. There are outstanding issues, but CUPE always comes to the table with solutions. The Minister and school board trustees have raised the issue of our members who can't come to work because they are sick and injured, and it is true that this has been a sticking point at our table. We have proposed other measures to address the causes of absences, improving return to work protocols, examining the effects of excessive workloads and classroom violence on sick leave. We have solutions. We are ready to help them address the concerns they have. We aim to secure services for students, services that allow them to get the most out of their learning experience by ensuring that they are safe, healthy, and supported in schools. These principles inform every single one of our proposals. We invite the province and the CTA to come to the bargaining table. We urge them to stop fixating on cuts that do nothing to help our students and our workers, and instead to focus on securing services for our students and ensuring decent, secure jobs for education workers.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Fred Hahn, President of CUPE Ontario.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Darcy. My name is Fred Hahn. I am the president of CUPE in Ontario. We have 55,000 members who work in our schools, but we also have over 200,000 members who work for cities and towns all throughout our healthcare system, in our social services, and at universities in every corner of the province. Many are also parents and grandparents of students in schools in Ontario. I'm here today to offer the full support of our entire union in the efforts being put in by our school board workers to use collective bargaining to fight back against the cuts to services in our schools. From the beginning of this process, our school board membership has been clear about their goal: to restore services lost by cuts of the provincial government, to protect services going forward, and to do so in a way that doesn't penalize our members. CUPE Ontario education workers deserve respect. Students in our schools deserve properly, publicly funded, and publicly delivered education services. Our communities need public services, not cuts. But the Ford Conservatives have cut hundreds of millions of dollars from Ontario's schools in the last year, and that's resulted in the loss of vitally important services and supports for students. Our education workers make, on average, $38,000 a year. They're some of the lowest paid workers in our public education system. The majority are women. More than 70% of them are laid off each and every summer. They've faced years of cuts to the important services they provide. They've already faced years of frozen wages and wages that do not keep pace with inflation. They have already had their charter rights violated. Enough is enough. Our students, our schools, our communities, and these workers deserve a fair negotiated agreement. They deserve better. They deserve services that will actually help students and not penalize workers. We're proud to stand with CUPE's OSBCU as they push to negotiate a fair agreement, and we will stand with them in whatever actions they have to take in order to do that. CUPE Ontario is committed to rallying the support of our union, parents, and communities in this critical fight for fairness, public services, and respect.
Thank you, Fred. In conclusion, let me say this. Make no mistake, CUPE members are prepared to go on strike. We are ready. We are ready to do the hard work needed to prevent this action. I hope the province and the CTA are prepared to come to the table and do the same. I'm hoping that the government and CTA wants to avoid a full walkout as much as I do. I'm giving students and families my personal assurance that we will do what it takes to get a fair deal that protects the services and that both sides consider to be fair. I'm happy to take your questions.
The ante awfully quickly. You guys only started your work to rule on Monday, as you said. I mean, how bad is it that the things you say the boards are doing?
Within minutes of work to rule beginning on Monday, school boards had already taken the initiatives to have children as young as 10 and 11 doing supervision. They started laying off, canceling programs. We had one board that sent out an incorrect memo stating that we would not provide medication to our students. They literally took the weekend to figure out ways to reduce services that are already at a critical point.
So there have been layoffs since the
Yes.
work rule started because of the work
Yes.
rule? Can you tell me which boards?
In York Catholic, we already have seen them cancel their entire continuing education program.
But if there's a strike, won't there be many more programs canceled? Won't it exacerbate the situation rather than alleviate it?
Definitely, and this is to apply pressure. We don't see a work to rule. The answer to work to rule in the 5 days notice is a way to have people reconfigure how we're going to provide student services. Instead, they've essentially just started withdrawing services even further than what our work to rule lays out. So there may be a full strike in order to achieve what we need.
heard that breakfast clubs were being canceled, or in some schools they decide by the end of the week that they would be canceled or continued. Vice principals and principals were stepping in. What does CUPE say about that? And, a follow-up on the previous question, won't that put the breakfast clubs programs at risk by striking?
So the sad story about breakfast programs was in 2008, 2012, we actually negotiated additional service monies so that EAs and ECs were able to have a 7-hour workday, which included doing the breakfast program because we saw that as a much-needed services in our school. In the last 8 years, the government and the school boards have made the concerted effort to reduce all of those services and have cut all of those positions and have asked people to come and volunteer to do it instead. We hear what folks are saying about the breakfast program, and we're making a move to provide breakfast programs on the lines.
Fred, there are over 1,500 polling stations at schools across Ontario for the federal election on October 21st. What happens if this strike continues until then?
Well, what I'm hoping is that the government and the CTA will get serious, that we'll come back to the bargaining table, we'll resolve the issues that are outstanding, we'll provide an agreement that is fair for our members and preserves services, and that we won't have to get there.
Right, but if that does happen, what's the contingency plan? I mean, Elections Canada has already sent out lists and things like that.
Yeah, and they'll have to deal with that, but there's nothing that our members would do that would impede the democratic process to allow people to vote.
I spoke to the Education Minister last night, and one of the things that he brought up was absenteeism, and that there's a pretty high percentage of educational support workers that are absent, and that after 11 days, pay is still 90%. And that ends up costing boards millions and millions of dollars for budgets that are already strained. And that was one of the sticking points, allegedly. What's your response to that? And what do you have to tell Ontarians that may see that as a waste of money? Because most folks don't have 90% pay after 11 days being off work.
What the minister calls absenteeism is really the reality that our members get sick at schools. Anybody who's a parent who has a kid that gets sick knows that their family members get sick. This happens in schools. But absenteeism or sick leave also includes people who've been injured at work because their workloads have increased, because other coworkers weren't replaced, because they were facing violent incidents in no small reason because there weren't enough supports and services in those schools. And so our team is willing to address all of those issues, to figure this out, to make sure that things make sense, both for our members and for students and for school communities.
Was that the sticking point? Was that where things broke down?
I can answer that, Travis. So first of all, it's an average. 55,000 people across this province, which means that we do have people who unfortunately receive diagnoses that mean that they're going to be off work for quite a sufficient amount of days, but we also have people who don't use any days at all, right? So this is an average. The 15 days, which is not the correct number that we saw in the data that they provided, but that's an average of 55,000 people. So that takes into account folks who have cancer diagnoses, who have done surgeries, who have had knee replacements. There is a number of reasons why folks are off sick. We have said to them, we hear what you're talking about absenteeism. That is a symptom of the problem. That is not the problem itself. Let's get to the table and talk about why folks are away from work. And that is going to bring out conversations such as workload, such as workplace violence, such as workplace culture. All of these things will have to be addressed. You can't just point at ill people and punish them in order to achieve minimal savings.
Laura, do you have further bargaining dates at this point?
We have opened up the invitation today. We have not, and I do know that the minister has gone on record saying that we do. I have asked for him to send those to me again. I have looked in my calendar. I have looked in my email. I have not seen a single offer of any dates. That's why we're here today saying, let's get these dates on the table. Let's get to the table. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's make this happen.
What are the sticking points? That it is the sick days? Is that a sticking point for you that was thrown in?
Definitely, it's a stick. And service security. I think many of the folks around here have heard me say service security quite a lot. We have huge concerns that we have parents contacting us that there are not EAs to get their children off buses. that there are libraries that are safe spaces for some of our vulnerable student population being closed because those positions have been cut. And it's quite concerning when you take a look at the financial accountability assessment and learn that there is more money going to upper management than is being provided to those frontline workers. That's a real problem, and we need to address the level of services. The cuts need to be reversed. We need to maintain those services, and we need to improve them in the future because our children deserve nothing less.
We've already seen detrimental effects on students from the work to rule, dances being canceled, that sort of thing. The government is going to say that you guys are using students as pawns. How do you respond to that? And what do you say to students that are looking at a fairly bleak future without you, next few months, without you guys doing
So we had a very heartwarming piece come into us today where one of the students in one of our high schools went and tied a purple ribbon around every single locker. The public and the students are standing by us. They understand that there may be some short-term losses, but in the end, they are seeing those losses because of what this province and what the school boards have already done. When they are not able to have classes that they need in order to graduate and move on, when we have the government and the school boards reducing our jobs, which are good jobs that our students could be performing in the future, they understand that we're fighting for them.
Well, you have, earlier you were talking about administering medication. I don't understand what your point is, because right here on your list of work to rule instructions, number 7 is do not administer medication.
For clerical, our secretaries don't administer medication. Medication is administered by EAs. That's who is assigned to the medically fragile students. Clerical is the office secretary. They should not be doing medication at all. PPM 81 actually outlines that. It's a legal document, and those are education assistants that are outlined in the government's own policy.
Well, how does that help the well-being of students?
We are delivering medication. That is not struck work by our EAs.
Laura,
I'm going to take Colin's
This
question.
is what I don't understand. You know, you guys have the Work to Rule campaign right now. Why is that not enough? Why do you have to escalate this to a full strike? Why can't a Work to Rule get you to where you want to go?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? We did it for 6 weeks last time, so I hear what you're saying. But we did not have employers and the school boards and the provinces making issues like they are right now, where they are actually putting our students in jeopardy. No one who is 10 years old should be assigned to look after 2 kindergarten classes over lunch hour.
But the only reason that is happening, and we have no verification that that's happening, that's a claim that you guys are making, but the only reason that is happening is because CUPE has started Work to Rule in the first place. So who really is putting student safety
It
in
wouldn't be
jeopardy?
happening at all if we had enough services in the schools.
Can you tell us where that's, like, you've brought that up a couple times now, parents might find it shocking to hear 10 and 11-year-olds looking after students. Where's it happening? Can you give us
Throughout. We
can you
have
give us
several.
specific examples
Yeah,
on
we
what
have
boards and what
several school
schools?
boards where it's been reported to us. It's okay. Several school boards where that's been reported to us. We even had one report coming in where school boards tried to offer students in high school volunteer hours to do supervision, which is actually a violation because you cannot be doing volunteer hours during school time in accordance to the ministry. So there are several, too many to sit here and list today, and the reports keep coming in. What is wonderful about this is that our parents are calling our hotlines, and our parents are talking to us about how concerned they are. They understand why they're doing this. What they don't understand is why schools are being left open across this province instead of the buzzer being handed over to the administration as per the Work to Rule document. Principals have chosen to unlock the doors and leave them unlocked.
If you say that you want good faith negotiations, why are you informing the media first before the Ministry of Education about this strike action? Because as of 10 minutes ago, government didn't know that this was happening.
That would be incorrect. They received it earlier this morning.
What time did
They received it at 9:30 this morning.
So half an hour notice before you guys come up publicly?
When reading your articles, it seemed like many people already knew about it already.
Just a quick question about whether, what it would signal to you if the government recalled the legislature to legislate you back to work.
That would be a mistake. These workers have already had their rights violated once. They're not prepared to go through that again. What people should be doing is taking their time and energy to go sit at a bargaining table and resolve the issues in a way that provides services for students and doesn't penalize our members. That should be the focus.
Let's give it the timing of this, the timing, okay, political timing. Can you say anything to persuade people that this doesn't have to do with the fact that there's a federal election campaign and, it might actually, harm the conservative political fellows of the Ford government to have Ontario schools in a strike during an election campaign?
One would suggest that the action of this government since June of 2018 are sufficient to already have done harm. We are choosing this because this is the time for our members. We came in very early into the bargaining process to try and achieve a deal before school even went back.
Laura, when did you guys make this decision?
The unions are actively campaigning against the Conservatives, and then you give a work to rule campaign a very short amount of time to work. Might the public not think you're trying to create chaos in the Ontario school system to benefit other political parties and hurt Conservative Andrew Scheer?
The only chaos that has been created in this system is as a result of the cuts of the provincial government. And of course we're campaigning against those cuts as our parents, as our communities, as our families. And of course we've got to use every tool that we have as a union to try to protect services for students, to try to protect the work that our members do. That's what our members are doing with collective bargaining.
This isn't even a provincial campaign, though. This isn't even a provincial campaign. This is a federal campaign. It's one step removed.
The timing of the collective agreements happened to coincide with the timing of a federal election. That was not timing of our choosing.
Laura, what can you say about, if the strike happens on Monday, how realistically can schools stay open? And, are support workers striking because, or does the union know if teachers are not far behind?
So that would be taken on a case-by-case basis, and it really is dependent on the level of services of the people that we represent in that school. I do have school boards where we only represent one particular employee group. I don't know if they would shut down versus a school board where we represent a fairly diverse group. It really will be left, I would assume, unless the minister chooses differently, I would assume that it would be up to each local school board to make that decision.
Do you know that teachers are...
I'm aware that ETFO is doing strike votes as we speak.
And is there a feeling that teachers are going to be close
I think
behind?
education workers in general, regardless of what the job title is, are really frustrated. And it's frustrating when you're sitting at a bargaining table and you're having someone attack some of your most vulnerable members and asking them to head towards poverty just because they've received a diagnosis. That's frustrating, and I can see how other teacher groups are following along and doing what they need to do. I respect them, I support them. They know their membership best and will do what's in the best interest of their membership, just as we do what's in the best interest of ours.
How would you describe the bargaining with the current provincial government? How, in the times that you've sat down, how would you describe how those have gone?
We've had some really good discussions. And then we've had some other discussions that are not very fruitful. And I don't think that's any different than any other negotiation table. Everyone comes in with a mandate. I will remind folks, we did work to rule for 6 weeks under the Liberal government as well.
Laura, who did that 9:30 notification go to specifically?
The 9:30 notice goes to the Crown and to the chair of the Council of Trustees Association.
So it didn't go to the ministry?
Yes, it goes to the Crown, who then gives it to the ministry.
When did you guys arrive at this decision to escalate?
So it's been a long couple of days where we've been fielding these calls in. The decision was placed, we brought in together all of our leaders again last night, and the decision was taken last night.
Was any concerned about children with disabilities? Obviously, your members provide a lot of supports to students in the system with disabilities. Are you concerned that a strike means that many of them might not be able to go to school?
I'm also concerned that the future they have right now under this current government and the way the school boards are going are not providing them the supports that they require day in and day out. And I say that as a parent of someone with learning disabilities.
Did CUPE have any conversations with any of the teachers' unions before this press conference this morning about this 5-day notice that was going to be given? And if those discussions did take place, were there any discussions about teachers crossing the picket lines if they're set up come Monday?
Do you want to speak to that?
Sure, those discussions, we gave our partners a heads up, as we would, because we all work together in schools, and discussions are ongoing about solidarity and support, but each of the teachers' unions that we have been in touch with have expressed their support and solidarity for our members.
Does that mean that they won't cross the picket line, Fred?
But we're going to talk to them about that and figure it out.
Anybody speaks French?
We do have someone here to speak French today.
Okay.
You
Fred,
mentioned
would you ask them not to cross the picket lines?
Well, look, that would be ideal. I think it would be ideal because what we want here is pressure to resolve these issues so that our schools can function and so that people can just get back to doing the jobs they love,
So your
that they're
goal is shut
dedicated
down the
to.
school system.
No, our goal is to achieve a collective agreement that actually restores the
You're willing to shut
services
down
that
the
were
school
cut.
system to see that.
If that is a decision that the government takes by way of their actions, then it will be their actions that lead us there.
You made one quick allegation, I believe, that front doors of schools aren't being locked.
Yes.
Is there an understanding of what, potential outcome or, negative outcome could be from that? And
Absolutely. We never asked for the doors to be unlocked. If you look at the documents that were provided, we have said that they need to return the buzzer system over to the administration. It's the school boards and the administration who have taken the tactic to unlock the schools rather than continuing using the buzzer
you're
system.
claiming that the school boards are putting children's lives at risk
They would be the
by
ones choosing to
potential
leave the
attack
door.
by leaving the doors open.
We did not. There's nothing in ours that says that. It actually clearly states to return the use of the buzzer to the administration.
Laura, can you clarify one more time? I know you said previously work to rule campaigns have been much longer. What was the factor that this one was 3 days? What
Well,
was the
and this
difference?
one's carrying on.
Right,
We're still
until
going to be
Monday. Right, yeah.
continuing this on. We're not stopping work to rule. We're going to continue on. The factor is just the extent that the school boards are doing. Unlocking doors is a really good example. That's not a safe practice.
Is it different from the
That was not done last time.
Can we have the last question? Because someone's waiting to use the studio at 10:30, but we'll continue outside.
Are you willing to go back to the bargaining table without any conditions, or are there anything you'd like to see before you return to the bargaining table?
We're willing to go back to the bargaining table and have good discussions about where we need to be in order to achieve a fair collective agreement that is going to provide services to our students, schools, and communities, but also ensure that our members are taken care of.
And if you see any light at
Returning?
Pardon
Sorry,
me?
there are no preconditions to returning then?
No?
If you see any light at the end of the tunnel, let's say Sunday night, early Monday morning, are you guys willing to?
Absolutely. The goal here is to get a collective agreement.
How
confident are you that you have the public
We're
support?
gonna have to leave.
Can we have the
hang on, let him ask the
spokesperson here?
question.
That would like to have the spokesperson waiting on camera. Is it possible to have the spokesperson in front?
So then,